What is up, everybody? What is up? It's Angel from the Typical Browns Fan Podcast here live tonight. It's going to be a quick one. Shouldn't be too long. I got kids to put to bed probably here soon. But I want to pop on and talk about the NFLPA grades real quick and my thoughts on them. And I got something to bring up about the draft and how I feel a lot of us are focused on the wrong rounds when it comes to the draft. We're focused on rounds one and two, and I think we should. I got some data to show us that we should not, we should look beyond rounds one and two, that we should be focused on beyond that, basically beyond that. But thank you for tuning in today. Please like, subscribe, follow, share the feed, let people know I'm on the live here talking about our Cleveland Browns. This live is brought to you by Lego Heads Barber Saloon. Lego Heads Barber Saloon is located in Berea, Ohio. Get there, talk to Marla, get a haircut, a beard trim, and let everybody know that Typical Browns fan sent you, or the Beater Browns podcast. One or the other will work for me, honestly. NFL combines this week. Cardinal Tate ran a 4.54. Are we worried that wasn't as fast as the other people's? Are we scared? Or do we still want to draft him? Meanwhile, you have Sonny Styles and Arvo Reese. They blew up the combine very well. Best player available need. What are we doing? When the Browns see Mekhi Lemon's size, hand size, arm size, and wonder yourself, should we draft him with our first pick in this round, or wait to 25th and hoping that he's there? I mean, he has the same measurables as St. Brown, who was drafted in the fourth round. Now, I know St. Brown is outlasting his draft value, but do you risk it drafting somebody that small? Casey Consumpcion, he seemed to improve his draft stock. He's pretty bigger than I thought, and he runs bigger routes, more routes, according to the route tree index on Sumer Sports. If you go there, you can see all the routes that all receivers run. But we'll see. We'll see what they do, man. It's going to be interesting here from here on out. It's all going about debates. You're going to pull up the combine numbers, and you're going to see Jeff Codwell, Cincinnati guy, runs the quickest 40 time. He had a 10-yard split, best 10-yard split. As far as receivers, he was one of the top ones, surprisingly. Brendan Thompson from Mississippi State, he had a fast 40 time. It's everybody that we didn't anticipate to be in the top is on top, as far as if you're into the Underwear Olympics scores. But the 4.5 for Cardinal Tate's a little worrisome for me. But again, do you really need a fast 40 to get open and catch a ball? I'd be more worried that he's more of a possession receiver than anything. And then you're drafting a possession receiver at 6. And then you start to talk to yourself about, what do we do here? Nonetheless, let's get into the NFL Players Association player survey grades. Okay. Topic of conversation here. Browns overall got rated a D plus. Overall D plus. But here's some stuff that I want to talk about. I'm not gonna hit on all of these, but there's some stuff in here that I feel isn't some stuff that's going to change. And it's gonna happen when we move to the new, we as in like we're actually like we're the ones moving. But if once the Browns move to this new stadium, most of this stuff is going to get cleared up. A lot of this stuff, they've been graded low many years. If you look at any of the other NFLPA grades, they pretty much match up verbatim with each category. It's always the same, especially when it comes to the locker room or the stadium scores specifically is what I want to talk about. And one of the first things we're going to talk about is the treatment of families and how it got rated a D. Now, There's a lot of talk. The reason why it gets rated a D is because the Browns are among 12 teams that don't provide a family room at the stadium. They don't provide a family room. Now, if you go look at Atlanta, if you look at Dallas, and I think Miami, they offer this room where your family of the players can stay at the stadium. They can sit there and wait for the player. They can sit there and wait for the player to come out, most likely a family member, waiting for the player to leave the stadium. But instead, families were made to wait outside of a tent during cold weather and early season weather. It's cold here right by the lake. It's pretty freezing, and the Browns are having families wait outside the tent. I don't understand this aspect of it. Maybe there's no room in the stadium to fit a family, the amount of families that's going to require for a team. Some people bring 2 or 3 family members, 4 to 5, and maybe at the stadium they just don't have room. I still don't understand why they allow them to wait outside in the tent with the heater. That's confusing to me. But as a player, I can understand if my wife and kid has to wait outside in the cold weather until I leave in order for us to leave. But I think this is one of the things that are going to change once they move to Brook Park, because Brook Park and Berea, they're side by side. So a lot of this has to do with transportation. So when you think of transportation, you think of transporting people from Berea or downtown in general. It's a mess. It's a headache. There's only one way in, one way out. This is part of the reason why Jimmy hasn't wanted to get out of there. They don't want that area because it doesn't make sense from a flow standpoint. So players rated the treatment of families as D minus, and I think it's been that way consistently since these NFLPA grades came out, because I don't think they have the accessibility to treat families any better than they can. Now, is that an excuse? No, it's not an excuse. It's a reason. And Jimmy's doing his best. I'm not probably the only person sticking up for Jimmy when it comes to these grades, but I'm going to do it. But Jimmy's doing his best to make these better. And part of that is moving out of downtown Cleveland and into Brook Park. He's also building District 46. For you, those that don't know what District 46 is, it's basically a community right by Berea where the practice facility is. He's going to build townhomes, hotels, shops, a brand new stadium for the Berea Mid Park Titans football team. It's going to be a really nice stadium for the high school football team. It's all going to be there centralized. And what's going to happen, what the vision is, from what I've been reading, is that families of teams, of their team is going to stay there game days, and they're going to provide transportation from Berea to Brook Park, which is only like a 5-10 minute ride. And then when they're done, the families will get transported from Brook Park back to Berea, where the players will meet and they go home. So that myself is going to get fixed in 2029. And I'm sticking up for Jimmy about this. Food and dining. I don't understand the food and dining at a D plus. I've heard that their food supply there in Berea is pretty good. So that confused me to get it a D plus. Even if you listen to 850 Nathan Segura Brown's the Browns network, they said they didn't understand that either because they thought their food was amazing. Nutritionists, that diet stuff that they're still working on. Locker room, F. Now, part of the reason also too why Jimmy wants to leave is because there's no room in their locker room to do any improvements. Nothing at all. The locker room is one of the smallest in the league. Only 39% of the players said they felt it had enough personal space. More than 70% of players said it's too small. And the players have said the building layout prevents them from expanding it. So the Browns are stuck with Jimmy is stuck with a small locker room. And he's getting penalized for it. Got enough. Now, if you go, actually, I think most of college stadiums have better locker rooms than the Cleveland Browns. One of the worst in the league is your Cleveland Browns. Training room, C+. I think that's also going to change. They're updating Berea. They're going to make a bigger training facility, more training staff. I think that's going to change coming years. Offensive, This is the funny one to me. Offensive coordinator, D plus. D plus for an offensive coordinator. I said to myself, which one? Was it Kevin or was it Reese? Which one did they not like this much to give him a D plus? If it was Tommy Reese, he didn't make a well enough impression his short time here that he got a D plus out of it. There, it says no specific reason cited other than historic poor management since 2024, which we can all agree our offense had been horrible, horrible. Special teams coordinator D, D, and we all agree that the special teams coordinator got a D. A lot of people often comment when I posted up the grades. They said, "How did this special teams coordinator get a D? Not enough." Because I said, "Well, Smitty saved him from getting enough. If Smitty would have had a bad year, then he would have gotten F." Because Smitty was the bright side of special teams. After the Cincinnati game, everybody's like, "Cut this kid," but he seemed well. He did not seem. He improved each week, so I think that's why he got a D. At worse grade than the offensive coordinator, which makes sense, right? Because it was worse at times. Team travel, the team hated it. My D minus. Only 60% of players felt comfortable or had enough personal space on team flights. Jimmy's going to have to sink some money into a bigger plane. Then I don't understand that. I don't know. Now that's a D minus, so that means it's probably I should have graded that out amongst the leagues who had the best. I think Miami was one of the best. They had the best grades, but I should have graded out to Miami. Doug said I was embarrassed reading the results. Man, there needs to be serious improvement. Doug, I think they will be once they move out of the stadium. I think the stadium prohibits Jimmy to do anything in that stadium. You can't improve the locker room. You can't improve the family state, how the family operates in there because there's no space. KP says, don't know if you said this or not, but the stadium was rushed. Yes. Yeah, I'm going to read the rest of that. Rushed to be ready when the team came back in 99. Nothing was properly planned, and previous owners didn't care enough at the time to make sure everything was up to standards. And that's true. And that's something when you look at these grades from now, like the head coach and the special team coordinator, like all that stuff you could probably blame on Jimmy too for hiring them, but that stuff, that stuff would change year to year and it would either improve your grade or hurt your grade. But the stuff that has been stuck on Jimmy's bad, poor report cards for years is stadium faults. Stadium faults. Like people say, I think his best report card as an owner is like a C, and that's probably when they had a good year because the team was probably the rapport was up. But you have that Jimmy. This now you see why Jimmy didn't want nothing to do with downtown. There's no place to build down there, and there's no place logistically to go in and go out, and there's not a place to build something big enough. If you look at the plans of the new stadium, part of the plans they made sure to tell you is that state of the art locker rooms. Why? Because every year Jimmy got an F on locker rooms, and it's not his fault. The stadium is crap. The reflection of this report card is not just based upon the owner, but upon the stadium in which they play in. And fans are not talking about that enough. Like, large part of these grades is basically environment based, and part of the environment is field where they play at. You're giving me how many criteria is based upon field here? Treatment of families, field, that's one. Locker room, 2. Training facility, 3. Traveling, that's something they can control. I don't know what Jimmy's going on. He's got to get a bigger plane for those dudes then, or buses. I don't understand it. I know this schedule, they're coming up this year. They're not going to take a lot of. I think they're going to take a lot of buses because they're pretty close, unless it's quick airplane rides. But team travel D, 67%. Kevin got a C minus, and I think that's generous. Really do, because I think a lot of our fans don't like. A lot of our coaches, obviously the fans, are the players. A lot of the players did not like Kevin, and it shows. The lowest head coaching grade amongst all teams. 2/3 of the players felt Kevin was efficient with their time. ranking him at 29, they said he was only moderately receptive to player feedback. In other words, he was stubborn. Kevin said it was my way. And I think to the point where he was talking about David Njoku, I think his last press conference, he said he thought David didn't like him, but he said, I just told David the truth. So I can see that happening. And to me, maybe that's when Kevin says, looking back, there's some things I would change too. And I think that's one of them. Maybe listening to player feedback, hearing them, and maybe trying to not cater, but kind of be flexible. General manager, which Andrew Barry gets a higher grade. Why? I don't know because I felt like he did as good or worse than Kevin with what was given. But Andrew Barry's tied for the second worst GM grade in the league. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to step right into Andrew Barry's history here in drafting, which I want to talk about specifically at the rounds two. There's a stat that came out last year. It's really new by a college that shows the importance of not of hitting between rounds 3 and 5. And I think we're so focused on hitting on rounds 1 and 2 that 3, 4, 5 we ignore and we shut the TV off and we're like, good. We got the top receiver, we got the top quarterback, and we're good. But we have to look at rounds 3, 4, and 5. And I'm going to give you some numbers to kind of like give you some information of why your GM is not as good one of the best GMs in the league because he's missing on rounds 3 through 5. And we saw it last year. He drafted 2 quarterbacks in rounds 3 and 5. Well, 1 quarterback in 3, another one in 5. Wasted picks. One of them is going to be a waste. Whether it's the 5th or whether it's the 3rd, it's a wasted pick. Team owner, got to see. Jimmy Haslam was tied for the 5th worst owner in the entire league with the C. The core issue players pointed out was that despite the problems being well known and persistent year after year, the tiny locker room, the weight room being crammed into a practice field, which is no more because that was during COVID. They fixed all that. They updated that, which is weird because they're still getting dinged for that. Players rated Haslam 8.6 out of 10 for his willingness to invest in the facilities, which ranked him 17th overall. So they deemed him for not being good enough, but they gave him credit for trying. Which I look at that and I kind of side eye it like, well, if you know he's trying, give him bigger grades. Hey, look, sure, the weight room and the locker room small, but again, that's nothing he can control. They can't blow up a wall and expand down there in at the lake. They just can't do it. And again, that's part of the reason why Jimmy wanted out of downtown. A lot of people say, well, it's about the money. Sure, it's about the money. I'm sure he wants to make more money. And part of that is building a dome stadium where you can have more events. But the other issue is he wants to have a stadium in which his players want to be in, and that gives him the ability to show off for free agents and everything else. Because free agents look at this grade and they worry about the food they eat and wonder why are they getting a D- or D+? That's the stuff that matters to players. It's the treatments of families, food and dining, the nutrition, the locker room, all that stuff matters. It matters to them 100%. So Jimmy has done a good job. I think he's done a good job at year by year fixing this stuff, but I think it's going to expedite in 2029 once that stadium is built. You'll see that these grades will go from like a D, depending on the coach, where we're at right now with the coach. By 2029, I think we'll go from a D to a B. Because all the players, again, will love the locker room. They'll love the environment. They'll love the field. Hopefully, Jimmy will fix his airplane issue and travel issue by then, and everything will be fine. I really think these grades are overblown. But as a content creator and podcaster, I love talking about it, especially from year to year, because you either want to see a team improve or you want to see a team. You hope your team doesn't get worse. And I think the Browns have always hovered over a C and a D. I think the organization is just that right now. It's a CD organization. And that's just the truth. As a Browns fan, I can say that, I can admit it. It doesn't bother me. Haslam has to do some moves, and hopefully Munkin and this coaching staff can slowly get him into more of a consistent winning years, in which will improve him from a CD to maybe a B grade. That's what it is. That's what the report card is. Sorry, Jimmy, you got a D plus again this year. Hopefully you improve that on to something that I'm excited to talk about. I'm working on what Doug's in the comments. Doug and I are working on something, and I'm going to try to do it next week about the draft and free agency. And I was looking at something specific. I was going to look for data that has to do with the data of players drafting best available over teams that drafting players best available or teams that draft over need. And I was looking at the percentage of how that would work out for the team. So nerdy of me. This is what I do on my free time. I know. He's like, dude, like you got kids, you got a family, you sit in your basement, just look at the internet all day. This is what I do to fill my time. When I have my time and I'm running this podcast and helping with the Bearded Browns, I'm looking up stuff to talk about, especially in off season. It's the worst as a podcaster slash content creator. You got to find things to talk about. And something came in my head because there's a conversation going on in my text thread with Chad and Mike on the Bearded Browns about do you draft best player available or do you draft need? And I wanted to know the data of how successful a team was if they drafted best player available or if they would have drafted need, how successful that was. I didn't get too far because I got sidetracked by this new study that came out. This study, what college is this? Shoot, I forgot the college. I forgot to write down. There's a college that did a study. Man, I meant to write it down because I wanted to give them credit too. Dang it. They did it's a 25-year study, 24 drafts, I believe. Here we go. Rotorooter.com RotoWire analyzed all 800 first-round picks across 25 draft class. So you have 800 first round only, 25 draft classes. So that's from 2000 to 2024. So this is new data, brand new data. It's not old. It's not ancient. Times has changed. This is brand new data. They using Pro Football Reference Center data, revealing that there's a high rate at 57% with picks between 22 and 26. Guys, the Browns are picking at 24 this year. When I saw that data, I freaked out. I'm like, God, maybe it'd be different because the Browns have so many needs, right? Maybe this would be different because you can draft whoever you want at 24 and it's an extra pick. But it scares me that 57% of picks in the first round between 22 and 26 are bust. And considering Andrew Berry has not drafted high in quite a while, well, a year. I mean, drafted high in a year, but hasn't had the opportunity to draft this many picks high in a long time. It makes me nervous. Makes me really nervous. So there's a study that came out from Samford University Center of Sports Analytics. It's titled Why Rounds 3 through 5 are the most important than round 1. And that's part of the stat. Part of the stat is that 57% of picks 22 to 26 are high bust percentage picks. So typically teams who win a lot or playoff teams, they go in there and they pick maybe best player available because they feel like they just need somebody to fill this void. And they're busting. But according to Samford University and Sports Center for Sports Center Analytics, they're suggesting that the best thing to do is when you are in those round when you're between 22 and down, you should use that pick, trade back, and accumulate more third, fourth, and fifth picks in a third round, fourth round, and fifth round picks. Elite teams aren't they say this is a quote from them. They say elite teams aren't building on Thursday night. They're building their teams on Saturday afternoon. And if your team consistently misses on day 3 of the draft, no amount of first round talent can save it. No amount of third round, fourth round, or fifth round picks, specifically third round, is going to save your team, even if you hit on rounds 1 and 2. We have become so obsessed with rounds 1 as being the franchise savior when we should be looking at offensive guards or a wide receiver in the third round or a linebacker possibly taken in the fourth round that can change the trajectory of a team. And we see it a lot. We see it a lot. Amon St. Brown, fifth round pick. We see Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, seventh round pick. But yet we're so fixated on rounds 1 and 2, sometimes 2, but mainly 1, that we forget that there's still a team to be built in the later rounds. Teams that win the middle rounds focus on best available talent. So when you're in the later rounds, you don't draft for need. You draft best player available. Best player available. And I'm going to get into it real quick. Andrew Berry's history since 2020 in the third through fifth round. And we're going to see, is he drafting best player available or is he drafting need? Dan said, imagine the 2 quarterbacks we drafted last year if we would have drafted linemen. 100%. At least one of them. Like if you would have drafted Dylan or Shador, one of them, and then drafted a lineman, you would have been better off than what you've done here, what you have now. Tom Brady, KP, you're right, was a 6th round pick. So I'm now, as I'm going over this data, I'm thinking to myself, and as I'm going to have some proof for you, because data is nothing without proof, that maybe Browns fans should stop pump the brakes a little bit on round number 1. Let's see what Barry does in 3 through 5. Because this team needs plenty of talent, especially in the offensive line. That we shouldn't be consumed whether he's going to get offensive lineman with 6 or receiver. We should be worried of what he's going to do, especially with those 5 5th round picks, 3 5th round picks? Those are valuable. And then maybe you can see why Barry accumulates a lot of picks. It makes sense now, especially later picks. People say, it's just a 5th round pick. Data shows those are the best times to pick best talent available for your team. Research identifies rounds 3 through 5 as the sweet spot where elite franchises separate themselves from the basement dwellers. Success here correlates more strongly with total wins than success in the top 2 rounds. I'll say that again. Success in rounds 3 through 5 correlates more strongly with total wins than success in rounds 1 and 2. And I'm preaching. When I read this data, I said to myself, man, I'm too obsessed with what's going to happen on day 1. Too obsessed. I'm even too obsessed with what happens in round 2 because I got excited. I'm like, wow, we got Mason Graham. We got Carson Schwarzenegger, first 2 picks. Awesome. Even 3rd round pick. And we're going to look into it. Last year's 3rd round pick. Great. 4th round pick. Great. 3rd round pick again. Great. Then you get to Dylan Gabriel. Shador Sanders. When you pick for need quarterback instead of passing down Watt, safety that Atlanta picked up, now you need a safety in this draft. You had Xavier Watt right there but you picked a quarterback because you needed the quarterback, not get the best player available. So let's get into it real quick. So let's apply this method to the Browns, and let's go back from 2024 to 2025. Well, we'll go back to this year too. I don't think the data is 100% proven in 24 and 25, but we're just going to do it just for conversation's sake. So in 2020, Barry's first draft, in round 3, he had 2 third round picks: Jordan Elliott, Jacob Phillips, defensive tackle, linebacker. Okay. All right. Cool. Cool, right? We're pretty cool with those ish, a little bit maybe. Where are they now? Not on the team. Not on the team. Round 4, Harrison Bryant. Remember him? He was pretty good. He was a good pickup. He lasted. He's still in the league, I believe. I actually think Jordan Elliott is still in the league. I could be wrong. He had a pretty good couple years here. He was useful. Nick Harris, center, round 5. He was here a minute, gone, here a minute, gone again, injury. 2020 was not a good draft for Andrew Berry. Not at all. Not a bit. What do you guys think of 2020? You come out with 2 threes, 2 third-round picks. You got Jordan Elliott, defensive tackle, Missouri. Jacob Phillips, linebacker. He was hurt a lot, LSU. Harrison Bryant, tight end, Florida Atlantic. That's a typical Andrew Berry pick there. Round 5, Nick Harris, center, Washington. Never really panned out. So we go back to 2020. We go again, fast forward to 2021. Round 3. When you draft need, Anthony Schwartz. Not best player available. Need, because you needed a receiver that year. Anthony Schwartz. And known for being quick, but not catching. Round 4, James Hudson, offensive tackle, Cincinnati. Not good. Round 4, Tommy Togiai, defensive tackle, Ohio State. Not good. Tony Fields, linebacker, West Virginia, ended up being a good special teams player. And Richard LeCount III. Richard LeCount III. So the only person you got out of the 2021 draft was a special teamer named Tony Fields. So far, in 2 drafts, the late rounds, you've ended up having Harrison Bryant, a second-string tight end, maybe even third at times, and a special teamer, Tony Fields. All right, let's go to 2022. Pass on St. Brown for Schwartz. There you go, KP. If they would have drafted, well, then again, maybe I can't say, that's hindsight. I would say if you would have drafted best player available, St. Brown was there, but no one probably knew that. But whatever. 2022. This is where Andrew Berry hit. Andrew Berry hit 2022 perfectly. Round number 3, MJ Emerson. Emerson had good hit. He might not be on the team this year because he had an injury, and I don't think they're going to want to pay somebody who's coming off an Achilles injury. That's going to take a whole year, even when playing, to get back to their normal self, but we'll see what happens with that. Alex Wright signed his second contract in round 3, defensive end. UAB signed his second contract, and I like that. That's a good one. That's a hit. Especially on the edge. He's a good run stopper. He's getting to the quarterback. Round 3. I'm a little disappointed in this because I had high hopes in David Bell, wide receiver, Purdue. Injuries just derailed him. I thought he was going to be a good possession receiver, move the change type of guy, but just could not stay in the field. Round 4. Perion Winfrey. Character issues. He didn't go for best player available for sure. He went character issues there. Remember, and then round number 4, they decided to go for need because they needed a kicker. And they drafted Cade York. Cade York had one good kick against Carolina, then downhill from there. And round number 5, a good running back from Cincinnati, Jerome Ford. So he had a good years here. I don't think he was used well. Yeah, I think his ability to hit the hole wasn't as good as the other running backs, but I consider that a successful hit, especially for a fifth round running back. So in 2022, you got MJ, you got Alex Wright, and you got Jerome Ford. So you got 3 players on your team in the later rounds that year. That 2022 was probably one of before this year was one of his best drafts. And then we go into 2023, round 3, first pick, Cedric Tillman. Can't stay in the field, gets the concussions. He's hurt a lot, but that's a good pick. But then you go back in round 3, you get Siaki Ika, defensive tackle, Baylor. Does not work out. I think he was cut after his second year. Could not get on the field, was not good. And I believe they needed that pick. I think that was a need pick for them. Round number 4, DeJuan Jones, offensive tackle. Pretty good. If he did pretty good in the beginning, then injuries started to derail him, right? Pretty sad to see that. He's a little heavy. It's probably a reason why he can't stay on the field. But as you can see here in the later rounds, that's a semi-miss for him. We see what he does last year. Round number 4 of 2023, Isaiah McGuire. That's a hit. That's a hit, in my opinion. Isaiah McGuire will probably get extended again. I would like to see them extend him and Alex Wright together. I think Isaiah McGuire has higher upside. I think he can get to the quarterback quicker. They had the same amount of snaps last year. They played the same amount of time. So I would like to see Isaiah McGuire get his second contract, but that's a hit for me. Round number 5, DTR. DTR was not good. We know that. Don't have to waste too much time on that. Cameron Mitchell, round number 5, cornerback, Northwestern. He's still in the league. He plays for Indiana. That was a pretty good hit. He was a good third corner, pretty good special teamers. He's just not on the team anymore. So we'll give a hit to that. So you got 3, 4. That's another one. You got Tillman, you got Jones, you got McGuire, and you got Mitchell. I think that's a good. That's 2023, pretty good. Okay, I just need Cedric Tillman to get on the field. Round number 2024, round 3, Zach Zenter. Where has he been? He has not been on the field. We'll see. We'll see how that pans out. I think this is a big year for Zach Zenter. I think they're going to need him to play, obviously, because he's a guard. I'm hoping Warhop gets into him and transforms him a little bit and makes him to what they saw in order to draft him in the 3rd round as a guard coming out of Michigan. You did not have a 4th round pick last year in 2024, sorry. In round 5, you got Jamari Thrash. Just hasn't panned out yet. So last year's picks, you have 0 that are making an impact on your team in the later round. 0. And that was last year's picks. 0 making any impact on your team at rounds 3 through 5. And we wonder why this team is so bad. I've shown you plenty of data to show you that you should be very concerned. And Andrew Berry picking rounds 3 through 5. Now, the good news is he seems to have figured it out. Maybe, just maybe, not having a baseball guy tell you what to do can help him. Because in 2025, round 3, Harold Fannin. We can all agree that was a grand slam of a hit and picked in round 3. Another 3rd round pick, Dylan Gabriel. Unfortunately, that is something that we're going to have to wait and see. If he can be a good backup, which is what I thought he would always be, but he hasn't even played like that. We'll see. It's still early. Round 4, Dylan Sampson. I like Dylan. I like what they can do with him. I'm hoping that he doesn't get lost in this new offense that they're going to build, because I think Sampson could be really good in the Monken's offense, who relies on space. He's fast, he's shifty, and I think he can be a tool that Monken can use. KPX, how I think the grade should be: 2020 C, 2021 D, 2022 B minus, 2023 C plus, 2024 C, 2025 B plus. You're talking about the overall draft? Because I'm just going through rounds 3 through 5, and last year's draft, you don't even have a player on your team in rounds 3 through 5, and that is concerning. They're not even making an impact. And that was last year. The only you go far as back in, you have 1, 2, 3. Let's go. 1. So you got 1, 2. Wait, 1, 2. So 2 in 2023, because you can't count Jones because he's always hurt. He's done. You got Isaiah McGuire and Tillman in 2023 that's making an impact. 2022, MJ's hurt. You got Alex Wright. I will give you Jerome Ford, even though he won't be on the team. So that's 4. And then 2021, you have no one on your team still. In 2020, no one. So out of 5 drafts Andrew Berry's had in the late rounds, only 4 of those late round picks are on your team. Rounds 3 through 5, I can't give him a C for 2024 because none of those players are making an impact on your life. None of them. None of those players have done anything. They give him a C. It's very gracious. 2023, a C plus. I agree with that. 2022, I agree with that. 2021, I would agree with that. And 2020, yeah, because I think some players made an impact. I just wish they were still on the team. But 2025, yeah, good. I mean, you got Dylan Sampson, and then the 5th round, you end up trading up, acquiring a trade with Seattle and drafting Shedeur Sanders. So rounds 3 through 5 is crucial. And we can see that it might have shifted in 2025 last year because he's got Harold Fannin, he got Dylan Sampson, 2 good offensive players. The thing that sucks is that one of those quarterbacks should have been an impactful player on your team. And I would tend to say that 3rd round should have been an impactful player. Xavier Watt was there. It could have been your safety, and you would have had 3 impact players in the late rounds of your pick last year. Zinter was behind 2 big names. I believe he can be better than people are thinking. I think Zinter can be better. I agree with you. I just haven't seen it, so I can't grade that based upon hope. I need to see results. And the fact that Damari Thrash got cut last year after 1 year, it's concerning. And it's not like you don't need a receiver to step up. Jamari Thrash had no impact in a team that needs somebody in that position to make an impact. Now, I get the pick. He's fast. I still don't understand why he was cut. He had a good camp. Everybody was praising his name. And poop. Done. Didn't hear nothing about him all season. But that was his rounds 3. We'll see what he does. Andrew Berry does in rounds 3 through 5. But don't forget the importance of it. It's very high for a team. You build your team in rounds 3 through 5. Those are where the meat of the draft is, of talent, of depth is. And Andrew Berry needs to get better. I am encouraged by 2025. Let's not pick the same position again. You did pick 2 running backs too. That's a little questionable. I get it at the time. You did need 2 running backs. last year because we knew Chubb was going to come back. They didn't like Ford that much, but Dan said Watt last year, and we've been talking about Downs this year. It would be either offensive tackle or receiver. Now with the combined, uh, now with that combine at 6, it's anyone's guess. Yes, and that's not being talked about, Dan. I, are you guys okay with Downs running a 4.5? It was going into that. There was a lot of rumbling about him being slow in the 40, not being as fast, but he can catch. And I think that's more important than being fast. We had fast in Anthony Schwartz. He couldn't catch. Now, can Tate be a number one receiver running a 4.5? KP, good point. Chad O'Shea's reasons why our receiving core sucked since he was hired. I agree with that. That could be a part of the reason. But maybe also Andrew Berry put too much stock in thinking Jerry Jeudy could catch a ball. Either way, we'll see though. We'll see. I don't know. Yeah, it's up in the air. I think number 6, you draft best player available. The guys hate me for saying that, but you draft Sonny Styles if you want because you need a linebacker. He's the best player available. That's a need and best player available at 6. You draft Downs. It's a need and best player available. We'll see what they do. It's going to be interesting. Or you trade back and accumulate more 3rd and 5th round picks, 3rd, 4th, and 5th round picks in this draft to accommodate the lack of talent that you have or don't have because you need it. It's going to be interesting, but stay tuned. I'm going to sign off. Thank you guys for tuning in, commenting, sharing, doing everything you needed to do tonight to help me talk about this information that I found. It's very intriguing, very interesting to know that 57% bust rate from picks 22 to 26, right? Very concerning. KP says at 6, draft a receiver or a linebacker, 24 draft offensive tackle. I do like the offensive tackles coming out. I think it's more deep. It's a lot deeper than people think. There's a couple guys that I like, and I think we're on the Bearder Browns podcast on Tuesdays at 7:30. We will talk about that more in depth. Mike is you got to get offensive tackle guy at 6. I think Chad's trending that way. I can't speak for him. But right now, as it stands right now, I do have the ability to change my mind. I think you do best player available at 6 and kind of what you say, KP, get the offensive tackle at 24. The wide receiver depth is pretty deep. You can get a good wide receiver at number 2, number 1 pick in the 2nd round, and then you just do best player available from that point forward. If it's a linebacker, you need defensive tackle help too, best player available. You need corner help, best player available. You need a safety somehow, best player available. Best player in that position is what you need. That's just my opinion. But we'll see. Thank you guys for tuning in. I will be live with the Bearder Browns podcast at 7:30 p.m. this Tuesday. We will probably talk more in depth about the combine, who impressed us, who did not impress us, who ruined their stock, and who rose. Omar Cooper Jr. thought he did what I thought he can do. I thought he was a little slower than I anticipated, but that's just my take on that. We'll talk about that more. A lot more on Tuesdays. Thank you guys for tuning in. Until next time, like always. Oh, stay tuned Tuesday. Sorry, I almost forgot. Slipped my mind. We have a big announcement Tuesday when it comes to draft. Stay tuned for that. So hop on, listen to the announcement, talk about the combine and other topics. We'll probably talk about Browns news related. Carson Beck, by the way. Let's talk about this real quick. Carson Beck, Andrew Eller. It's LR. Is it LR or LR? Me and Mike were talking about this, and we believe it's LR, but people are saying LR. Either way, they helped their stock. Did they not? See, this is why you throw at the combine. Because teams that doubt you or second guess you, if they see you throw a long ball, they're like, Oh boy, I'm thinking I'm risking it for that one. Risking it for that. But I think those two guys helped their stock. I'm giving you guys kind of my notes for Tuesday early. But if you did not see their combine throws, go back and look at that. It was pretty impressive. Mind you, Carson Beck is a year removed from the injury, and he was probably one of the top quarterbacks to get drafted before that injury. So that's what intrigues me about that. Now, Drew Eller, his foot, his hand, his he needs all mechanics. His whole mechanics need to be worked on, but he does throw a nice ball. He really does. Quarterback from Arkansas is fast, but we had Barry Shuck on the Bader Browns podcast, and he said he was inaccurate. So he's going to be one of the risers that people talk about. But tune in Tuesday, 7:30. I say that again. Until next time. Shout out to my sponsor, Bearded. Um, Shout out to my sponsor, Lego Heads Barber Saloon, Berea, Ohio. Thanks, Marlon, for sponsoring the show, sponsoring this live. Thank you guys for support. Until next time, like always, go Browns.